The fluorescent lights of SaveMart buzzed overhead like angry hornets as Elena Torres scanned another customer's groceries, her fingers moving with the mechanical precision of someone who'd done this 10,000 times before. The clock above register 7 read 11:43 p.m., and her feet screamed in protest inside shoes held together more by hope than actual stitching. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your total is $47.62, she said, forcing brightness into her voice that her exhausted body didn't feel. The customer, a middle-aged woman in yoga pants that probably cost more than Elena's weekly paycheck, wrinkled her nose at the total. That can't be right. The organic quinoa was on sale. Elena checked the receipt, already knowing what she'd find. That sale ended yesterday, ma'am. But I can call a manager if you'd like to verify. Never mind. The woman snatched her bags with a huff. This place is ridiculous. Elena watched her storm out, then glanced at the line of customers still waiting. 12 more people between her and the end of her shift. 12 more interactions where she'd smile and nod, and pretend her lower back wasn't on fire. Pretend the eviction notice tucked in her purse didn't exist. Pretend she hadn't skipped lunch and dinner to save money. The math haunted her. Rent was due in 3 days. She had exactly $208 in her checking account. Rent was $1,200. Even with tomorrow's paycheck, she'd still be $400 short. Her landlord, Mr. Kozlov, had stopped accepting, "I'll have it next week," 6 months ago. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Miss? Hello? Elena blinked, refocusing on the elderly man now standing at her register. She hadn't even heard him approach. He was small, maybe 5'6", with weathered brown skin and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners. His clothes were worn but clean, a faded jacket that had seen better decades, work boots with duct tape holding the sole together, and a knit cap despite it being August in Los Angeles. "I'm so sorry, sir. Long night." Elena straightened, her professional smile sliding back into place. "Did you find everything okay?" The old man set his items on the conveyor belt with careful precision. A loaf of day-old bread, marked down to 99 cents, a can of soup, a small jar of peanut butter, a bruised apple from the discount bin. Elena's throat tightened as she scanned each item, recognizing the purchases of someone counting every penny. "That'll be $6.47, she said softly. The man pulled out a worn leather wallet and counted out bills with shaking hands. 5 ones, 4 quarters, 6 dimes, 3 nickels. He counted twice, his face falling, as he came up short. "I have $6.28. His accent carried the melodic cadence of someone who'd grown up speaking Spanish. "I thought I had more. I'm sorry, mija. Let me put back the apple." "No, please." Elena reached across the register, stopping his hand. Something about this man, about the dignity in his embarrassment and the careful way he'd selected the cheapest items, made her chest ache. "The apple's on me. Don't worry about it." "I couldn't. You're very kind, but I insist." Elena smiled, and this time it wasn't forced. She completed the transaction, her finger hovering over the button that would let her cover the 19-cent difference from her own pocket. Her manager would write her up if he noticed, but she'd dealt with worse. The old man's eyes grew wet. "Thank you. You have no idea. My grandson, he's been sick, and I just needed something to bring him, to show him his abuelo didn't forget him." Elena handed him the bag, her own eyes stinging. "Your grandson is lucky to have you. Bless you, mija. May God return your kindness tenfold." He shuffled toward the exit, and Elena watched him go, something warm and sad blooming in her chest. Her shift crawled to its end at midnight. Elena clocked out, pulled on her threadbare jacket, and started the 6-block walk to the bus stop. Los Angeles at night was a different creature, the daytime glamour stripped away to reveal the grit underneath. Homeless encampments lined the sidewalks. The distant wail of sirens provided a constant soundtrack. Elena kept her head down, her keys threaded between her fingers like a makeshift weapon her mother had taught her years ago. She was 3 blocks from the store when she saw him again. The old man sat huddled against the brick wall of a closed laundromat, his SaveMart bag clutched to his chest like a treasure. But now Elena could see what the store's bright lights had hidden. He was shivering despite the warm night, his breathing, shallow and labored. Elena stopped, every instinct screaming at her to keep walking. It was late. She was alone. She had exactly $23 in her wallet, her last bit of cash until tomorrow's paycheck, money she'd planned to use for the bus fare this week, and maybe, if she was lucky, a dollar menu burger. But the old man looked up, and their eyes met, and Elena saw something that made her forget every practical reason to walk away. Resignation. The kind that came from a lifetime of being invisible, of being the person people stepped over and around but never toward. "Sir?" Elena approached slowly, crouching down to his level. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" Up close, she could see the gray pallor of his skin, the way his chest rose and fell with concerning irregularity. His hands trembled, and not just from age, just resting. He wheezed. "I'll move along soon, don't want trouble. When did you last eat? And I mean really eat, not just soup and bread." The old man's silence was answer enough. Elena's hand moved to her wallet before her brain could override the decision. She pulled out the $20 bill, one of 2 tens, and a few crumpled ones, and pressed it into his cold fingers. "Please, get yourself a hot meal, something substantial. And maybe find a shelter for the night? It's not safe out here." The old man stared at the money like she'd handed him a winning lottery ticket. "I can't accept this. You work hard for your money. I saw you in there. And I'm giving it to you because I want to." Elena's voice was firm. "My mom always said we're not truly poor until we have nothing left to give. So please, take it. Get warm. Get fed. But you look like you need this more than... I need to know you're okay more than I need this $20. It was a lie, sort of. She desperately needed that money. But the truth was bigger than desperation. The truth was that she'd been where this man was, had felt invisible and forgotten, and she'd promised herself that if she ever had anything to give, she would. The old man's weathered face crumpled, tears tracking through the lines carved by years of struggle. "What's your name, mija?" "Elena. Elena Torres. Elena." He said it like a prayer, like he was committing it to memory. "I will not forget this kindness. I promise you." Something in his tone made Elena pause, a weight behind the words that seemed too heavy for a simple thank you. But she attributed it to emotion and exhaustion. "Just take care of yourself, okay?" She stood, her knees protesting. "And your grandson? I hope he feels better soon." She walked away before she could change her mind, before she could calculate exactly how screwed she was without that $20. The bus stop was 2 blocks ahead, and Elena dug into her wallet for change, counting coins. Enough for tonight's fare. Tomorrow she'd figure out the rest. She didn't see the black Mercedes that pulled up to the laundromat 30 seconds after she left. Didn't see the way the old man's entire demeanor changed, his frailty melting away as a tall, broad-shouldered man in an expensive suit emerged from the car. Didn't hear their conversation in rapid Spanish, or the way the old man said her name, Elena Torres, with something like wonder in his voice. "You're sure?" the younger man asked, his voice deep and commanding even in question. "Positive. She gave me her last $20, Mateo. I watched her count her money. That was everything she had, and she gave it to me without hesitation." The old man, Rafael Vega, stood straighter now, all trace of his earlier weakness gone. "She even paid for my apple at the store when I was short, covered it herself." Mateo Vega stared down the street where Elena had disappeared, his jaw tight. "She doesn't know who you are." "Not a clue. To her, I'm just another homeless viejo she decided to help." Rafael shook his head in wonder. "In all my years, in all the times we've done this, I've never met anyone quite like her. Most people cross the street. The ones who do stop usually give $1, maybe 5 if they're feeling generous. But $20? Her last $20? She lives here?" Mateo gestured to the rundown neighborhood, his expression darkening as he took in the cracked sidewalks, the barred windows, the kind of area where dreams came to die. "Works at that SaveMart. Night shift, looks like." Rafael pulled out his phone, already pulling up the information his security team had compiled in the past 30 minutes. Elena Torres, 26 years old. Orphaned at 16 when her parents died in a car accident. No other family. Works 2 jobs. SaveMart at night, a diner during the day. Behind on rent. Car was repossessed 3 months ago. Student loans from 2 semesters of community college before she had to drop out. And she gave you $20. Mateo's voice was soft, dangerous in its quietness. Everything she had. Everything she had. Rafael confirmed. He looked at his son, the most powerful man in Los Angeles' underworld, a man who commanded fear and respect from San Diego to San Francisco, and saw something he hadn't seen in years. Wonder. What are you going to do? Mateo was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes fixed on the spot where Elena had vanished. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute decision. Find out everything. Where she lives, where she works, who she owes money to, what keeps her up at night. I want to know what she dreams about and what she's running from. And then? A slow smile curved Mateo's lips, the kind that had made grown men reconsider their life choices. Then I'm going to give her back what she gave me, tenfold. And she's going to learn that kindness shown to a Vega is never, ever forgotten. Elena's apartment was exactly what $2,200 a month bought in this neighborhood, a studio with peeling paint, a bathroom where the shower only had 2 temperatures, scalding or Arctic, and a kitchenette with a hot plate because the stove had stopped working 6 months ago, and her landlord kept forgetting to fix it, but it was hers. Or at least it had been for the past 3 years. In 3 days, if she couldn't come up with the rent, it would belong to someone else. She dropped her bag on the second-hand couch, too exhausted to even heat up the ramen noodles she'd planned for dinner. The eviction notice stared at her from the coffee table, its red lettering like an accusation. Today was August 12th. Elena pulled out her phone, scrolling through her contacts. Her best friend Maria had already lent her $200 last month and still hadn't been paid back. Her manager at the diner, Robert, had given her extra shifts but couldn't advance her any more pay. The bank had laughed, when she'd inquired about a loan last week. She opened her calculator app and ran the numbers again, hoping somehow the math had changed. Paycheck tomorrow, $342 after taxes. Current savings, $23. She'd given away $20, so now she had $3 to her name until tomorrow. Total, $345. Needed, $1,200. Shortfall, $855. No matter how many times she ran the calculation, the answer stayed the same. She was screwed. Elena lay back on the couch, staring at the water-stained ceiling. She should regret giving that old man her $20, should be furious with herself for the impulsive generosity she couldn't afford. But she didn't. Couldn't. Because for just a moment, she'd seen the hope return to his weathered face. She'd made a difference, however small, in someone's impossible day. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory, thick with her Mexican accent. Mija, we are not measured by what we keep, but by what we give. Even when we have nothing, we can choose kindness. That is the only wealth that matters. I hope you're right, Mama, Elena whispered to the empty room, because kindness isn't paying my rent. She closed her eyes, too tired to even drag herself to bed. Sleep came quickly, heavy and dreamless. Elena didn't know that across the city, in a penthouse overlooking downtown Los Angeles, Mateo Vega was making phone calls that would change her life forever. She didn't know that the old man she'd helped wasn't homeless at all, but rather the semi-retired patriarch of the Vega family, one of the most powerful organizations in the Southwest. And she definitely didn't know that in approximately 8 hours, her impossible situation was about to become even more impossible, just in a very different way. The knock came at 6:47 a.m. Elena jerked awake on the couch, her neck screaming in protest from the awkward angle. Another knock, more insistent this time. She stumbled to the door, still wearing yesterday's clothes, her hair a disaster. Who is it? Courier service. Ma'am, I have a delivery for Elena Torres. Elena frowned, checking the peephole. A young man in a professional uniform stood in the hallway, holding a large manila envelope and a clipboard. Behind him stood 2 other men in dark suits who definitely weren't couriers. Her heart rate spiked. Debt collectors? She was behind on credit cards too, but they usually called, didn't show up at dawn. She opened the door a crack, the chain still engaged. She no one closing the door. I didn't order anything. This is for you regardless, Miss Torres. The courier held up the envelope. I need your signature confirming receipt. Something about the expensive paper stock and the formal seal on the envelope made her nervous. But the courier looked legitimate, not threatening. Elena undid the chain and opened the door fully, very aware of the 2 suited men watching her with unreadable expressions. She signed the clipboard with shaking hands, and the courier handed her the envelope with a slight bow, an actual bow before, walking away. The two suited men followed, leaving Elena standing in her doorway utterly confused. She closed the door and turned the envelope over. Her name was printed in elegant calligraphy on the front, but no return address. Elena sat on the couch and carefully opened the seal. Inside was a single sheet of heavy cardstock paper, and beneath it, another document that made her breath catch. The letter read, "Dear Miss Torres, last night, you showed extraordinary kindness to someone you believed was in need. You gave your last $20 without hesitation, without expectation of reward, simply because it was the right thing to do. This kind of selfless generosity is rare in our world. It should be recognized. It should be rewarded. Please accept the enclosed deed as a token of gratitude from someone whose life you touched more deeply than you know. The property is yours, free and clear, no strings attached, no debt incurred. Simply a gift from someone who believes that kindness should never go unnoticed. Sincerely, a grateful recipient of your compassion." Elena's hands trembled as she set down the letter and picked up the second document. It was a property deed. Her name was listed as the sole owner of a residence at 1247 Mulholland Drive in the Hollywood Hills. She read it 3 times. Then she read it again. Mulholland Drive, the Hollywood Hills. Those were addresses she saw in magazines, in celebrity gossip columns, in the fantasies of lottery winners. This had to be a mistake. A scam. Some kind of sick joke. Elena grabbed her laptop, her fingers fumbling on the keys as she pulled up Google Maps. She typed in the address, her heart hammering. The street view loaded, and Elena's breath left her body in a rush. The property wasn't a house. It was a mansion. A sprawling modern architectural masterpiece with floor-to-ceiling windows, multiple levels cascading down the hillside, and a view of Los Angeles that probably cost more than most people made in a lifetime. "No," Elena whispered. No. This isn't real. This can't be real." She grabbed her phone, hands shaking so badly she could barely dial. She called the number listed on the deed for the title company. "Silver Lake Title and Escrow. This is Jennifer speaking. Hi, I think there's been a mistake. I received a property deed, but it can't possibly be legitimate. The address is, 1 moment please. May I have your name? Elena Torres." The sound of typing. Then, "Yes, Miss Torres. Your deed was filed yesterday at 11 p.m. The property transfer is complete and legally binding. Is there a problem?" How is this possible? I didn't buy this property. I can't afford. The property was transferred to you as a gift, Miss Torres. All taxes and fees have been paid in full. There are no liens, no mortgages, no outstanding debts of any kind. You own the property free and clear." Elena's vision swam. There has to be some mistake. Who gave me this property? I'm sorry. That information is confidential. The transaction was handled through a trust, and the benefactor wishes to remain anonymous. But I can assure you, everything is completely legal and legitimate. Elena ended the call and just sat there, staring at the deed in her hands. Last night, she'd given a homeless old man $20. This morning, someone had given her a multi-million-dollar mansion, and something told her that the old man hadn't been homeless at all. Elena stood outside the mansion at 1247 Mulholland Drive, her beat-up borrowed bicycle leaning against the gate because she still couldn't afford an Uber for the 6-mile trek from her apartment. The gate itself was wrought iron and electronic, with a call box that had recognized her voice when she'd nervously said her name. "Welcome home, Miss Torres." A pleasant, automated voice had responded, and the gates had swung open like something out of a movie. Now she stood in the circular driveway, staring up at a house that couldn't possibly be hers, her legs trembling from the uphill bike ride and the sheer impossibility of the situation. The mansion was even more spectacular in person. Clean modern lines with warm wood accents, massive windows that reflected the morning sun, a 3-car garage that probably cost more than her entire year's salary, landscaping that looked like it required a full-time staff, an infinity pool that seemed to spill over into the city view below. This was insane. This was impossible. This was Miss Torres? Elena spun around, nearly tripping over her own feet. A man stood near the entrance, late 50s, with silver hair and kind eyes, wearing what looked like an expensive but understated suit. He smiled at her obvious panic. "I'm Thomas Reeves. I've been the property manager here for the past 3 years. I was told to expect you this morning and to provide you with a full tour and orientation. There's been some kind of mistake," Elena stammered. I can't accept this. I don't even know who gave it to me. Thomas's expression remained pleasantly neutral. I assure you, there's no mistake. The property is legally yours, Miss Torres. All documentation has been filed with the county. The title is clear. But why? I gave someone $20. That's it. $20 doesn't buy. She gestured helplessly at the mansion. Whatever this costs. Perhaps it wasn't about the money. Thomas stepped aside, gesturing toward the front door. The benefactor left specific instructions that you were to be given the full tour and all access codes, with no pressure whatsoever. If you choose not to accept the property, arrangements will be made to transfer it elsewhere, but won't you at least see what's being offered? Elena knew she should leave. Should call a lawyer, should report this to someone, should do literally anything other than walk into a stranger's mansion. But curiosity and desperation warred inside her chest, and desperation was winning. She had 3 days until eviction. Negative $15 in her bank account after her card had been declined that morning at the coffee shop. And someone had apparently given her a house. Okay, she whispered. Show me. The interior was somehow even more overwhelming than the exterior. Soaring ceilings with exposed beams. An open-concept living area with furniture that looked like it belonged in an art museum. A chef's kitchen with appliances Elena couldn't even name. Floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased a view of Los Angeles that made her chest ache with its beauty. Thomas led her through room after room. 6 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. A home theater. A gym with equipment that still had the tags on it. A library with built-in shelves and a rolling ladder. A wine cellar. A meditation room. An office with a view that would make concentration impossible. The master suite, Thomas said, opening double doors to reveal a space larger than her entire current apartment. The bed was massive, dressed in linens that probably had a thread count higher than her credit score. The bathroom featured a soaking tub, a rain shower that could fit 4 people, heated floors, and a window that overlooked the city. Elena touched the marble countertop, half expecting it to disappear under her fingers like a mirage. There's more, Thomas said gently. The property includes a full security system, already installed and monitored. The landscaping service comes twice weekly. Pool maintenance is every Monday. All utilities are set up in your name and paid through an account that's been established for property maintenance. An account? Elena's voice was barely audible. Yes. The benefactor has established a trust that covers all property expenses in perpetuity. Property taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, repairs, everything is handled. You'll never receive a bill for this house, Miss Torres. Elena's knees gave out. She sank out onto the edge of the massive bed, her head spinning. This is too much. This is way too much. Nobody gives someone a house like this for $20. There has to be a catch. What does he want from me? Thomas sat in a nearby chair, his expression sympathetic. I've been instructed to tell you that there are no strings attached. The property is yours to do with as you wish. Live in it, sell it, rent it out, the choice is entirely yours. The only request is that you read this. He pulled out another envelope from his jacket pocket, this one smaller, more personal. Elena's name was written on the front in strong, angular handwriting. Her hands shook as she opened it. Dear Elena, by now, you're probably overwhelmed. That's understandable. What you're experiencing isn't normal, and I imagine you have 1,000 questions. Let me answer the most important one. No, I don't want anything from you. This isn't a transaction. You're not indebted to me. This is simply what happens when someone shows genuine kindness to a Vega. You gave my father your last $20. You didn't know who he was. You had no expectation of reward. You simply saw someone in need and responded with generosity you couldn't afford. That's rare. That's precious. That deserves recognition. The house is yours, Elena. No conditions, no expectations, no strings. You can accept it or refuse it, stay or sell it. The choice is entirely yours, but I hope you'll accept it. Because people like you, people who give when they have nothing, who choose kindness over self-preservation, those people deserve to be protected, to be safe, to have a place where the world can't hurt them. You've been running on empty for too long. Let someone fill your tank for once. If you want to meet me, to ask your questions face to face, there's a card in this envelope with my personal number. Call anytime. I'll answer. If you never want to hear from me again, that's fine too. The house is still yours. The choice, as with everything, is yours. Respectfully, Mateo Vega. Elena stared at the signature. Mateo Vega. The name rang a bell somewhere in the back of her mind, but she couldn't place it. Who is Mateo Vega? She asked Thomas. The property manager's expression flickered just for a second with something that might have been surprise or concern. You don't know? Should I? Thomas was quiet for a moment, clearly weighing his words. Mr. Vega is a prominent businessman in Los Angeles. Very successful, very private. He prefers to keep a low profile. Something in the way he said it made Elena's instincts flare. What kind of business? Various enterprises. Real estate development, import, export, construction, hospitality. The Vega family has been in Los Angeles for 3 generations. That non-answer was an answer in itself. Elena pulled out her phone and Googled Mateo Vega Los Angeles. The results made her blood run cold. The first few hits were legitimate articles about real estate, developments, charitable donations, business acquisitions, but scroll down further, and a different picture emerged. Articles with titles like Alleged Crime Family Expands Territory, and Federal Investigation into Vega Organization Stalls, and The Untouchable. How Mateo Vega Built an Empire in the Shadows. Oh my God, Elena whispered. He's the old man. Was Mr. Vega's father is Rafael Vega. Yes, Thomas said calmly. He's semi-retired now, but occasionally likes to, shall we say, observe the world without the burden of his family name. So, last night, I gave $20 to the father of a, she couldn't even say it, mafia boss, crime lord. Whatever euphemism made it sound less terrifying. You gave $20 to an old man who was cold and hungry, Thomas corrected gently. That's all you knew. That's all that mattered. Elena stood abruptly, pacing the expansive bedroom. I can't accept this. I can't take a house from someone who, there was moved by genuine kindness? Thomas interrupted. Miss Torres, I've worked for the Vega family for 15 years. I've seen them at their best and their worst. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that Mateo Vega doesn't give gifts lightly. The fact that he's doing this, that he's offering this with no strings attached, that means something. It means I gave his father $20. It means you gave everything you had to someone you thought had nothing. Thomas's voice was firm now. Do you know how many people Rafael encounters when he goes out like that? Hundreds. Thousands over the years. Do you know how many have ever given him more than loose change? 3. You're the 3rd person in 15 years who's ever given him more than a couple of dollars. And you're the only one who gave him literally everything you had. Elena slumped against the window, her forehead pressed to the cool glass. Below, Los Angeles sprawled in the morning light, the city that had chewed her, up and spit her out for the past decade. I have 3 days until I'm evicted, she heard herself say. I have $400 in unpaid parking tickets. My credit score is in the toilet. I eat ramen 3 meals a day, and sometimes just skip meals altogether. I work 70 hours a week, and I'm still drowning. She turned to face Thomas, tears streaming down her face. And now you're telling me that because I gave away $20 I couldn't afford to lose, I get to live in a mansion? How is that fair? How is that justice? What about all the other people working just as hard as me, struggling just as much, who didn't happen to run into a crime boss's father on the right night? Life isn't fair, Miss Torres, Thomas said quietly. But sometimes, rarely, beautifully, someone's kindness is rewarded. This is one of those times. Don't reject a blessing because you think you don't deserve it. Take it. Live in it. And maybe when you're stable and safe, pay it forward. Elena wiped. Her eyes, her mind spinning. She pulled out the card Mateo had included in his letter. Heavy cardstock, embossed with a phone number. Nothing else. If I call this number, she said slowly, if I meet him, am I safe? Or am I walking into something I can't walk back out of? You're safe, Thomas said with absolute certainty. Mateo Vega doesn't hurt innocent people, Miss Torres. That's actually what makes him different from... He stopped himself. You're safe. I stake my reputation on it. Elena looked around the bedroom, at the luxury she couldn't have imagined in her wildest dreams, then down at her phone. 3 missed calls from her landlord, 2 texts from the diner asking if she could pick up an extra shift, a reminder that her phone bill was overdue. She could refuse this. Could walk away, return to her crumbling studio apartment, continue drowning slowly in a system designed to keep people like her underwater. or she could accept the impossible gift and deal with whatever came next. I need to think, Elena said finally. Can I have the day to just think? Of course. The house is yours whether you move in today or next month or never. Take all the time you need. Thomas stood and handed her a set of keys. These are yours. The gate code is 0815, your birthday, I believe. The security system code is inside the house, in the kitchen. If you need anything at all, my number is programmed into the house phone. He walked to the door, then paused. Miss Torres? For what it's worth, I think you should stay. I think you should call that number. And I think you're going to be surprised by who Mateo Vega actually is. Then he was gone, leaving Elena alone in a mansion that was apparently hers, holding the phone number of a man who was either her guardian angel or her biggest mistake. Elena called Maria from the mansion's meditation room because she needed to hear a familiar voice before she completely lost her mind. You're where? Maria's shriek was so loud Elena had to hold the phone away from her ear. I'm at 1247 Mulholland Drive. In a mansion. That's apparently mine now. Because I gave an old man $20 last night. Okay. I'm calling 911. Because you're clearly having a mental breakdown. Maria. I'm serious. Elena pulled up the deed on her phone and texted a photo. Look. My name. This address. It's real. Silence. Then, holy shit, Elena. Do you know what houses on Mulholland go for? Millions. Tens of millions. I know. Who the hell did you give $20 to? Bill Gates? Elena took a deep breath. Apparently the father of a man named Mateo Vega. More silence. This time it stretched longer, heavier. Maria? You still there? Elena. Maria's voice had dropped to a whisper. Please tell me you're joking. You know who he is. Everyone in LA knows who Mateo Vega is. Or at least, everyone who pays attention to the news. Maria paused. He's dangerous, Elena. Like serious. People don't say his name out loud dangerous. My cousin Miguel, the one who works at the DA's office, he says Vega is untouchable. They've been trying to build a case against him for years and can't make anything stick. But what does he actually do? Everything. Real estate, construction, import, export, all legitimate on paper. But everyone knows he's connected. The Vega family has been running LA's underworld since his grandfather's time. Protection, gambling, who knows what else. Maria's breathing was rapid now, panicked. Elena, you need to get out of there, right now. Don't accept the house, don't call him, don't. He said there are no strings attached. And you believe him? Men like that don't give out multi-million-dollar houses for $20 without wanting something in return. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually he'll collect. That's how they work. Elena walked to the window, looking out at the view that should have been impossible for someone like her. The property manager said I'm safe. That Vega doesn't hurt innocent people. The property manager works for him, Elena. Of course he's going to say that. Jesus. You can't seriously be considering keeping this house. Can you? Could she? Elena thought about her studio apartment with its broken stove and peeling paint. Thought about her landlord, Mr. Kozlov, who'd cornered her in the hallway last week and suggested maybe they could work out alternative payment arrangements, his eyes crawling over her body. Thought about working 70 hours a week and still choosing between food and rent. I don't know, she admitted. But Maria, what if this is real? What if there really are no strings? What if someone just wanted to do something nice for once? In LA? From a crime boss? Elena, please, you're smarter than this. A soft chime interrupted them. Elena turned to see the security screen by the door lighting up, showing the front gate. A black SUV with tinted windows sat idling. Her heart jumped into her throat. Someone's here. Get out. Elena, get out right now. I can't. I rode my bike here. It would take me an hour to get back down the hill and... The call box crackled. A male voice, deep and smooth, came through. Miss Torres, this is Mateo Vega. I apologize for the unannounced visit. Thomas mentioned you might have questions. I thought I'd make myself available. You don't have to let me in. I'll wait here if you need time to think. Or I can leave entirely. Your choice. Elena stared at the screen. Even through the tinted windshield, she could make out a silhouette, broad shoulders. The suggestion of a strong profile. Elena, do not let him in, Maria hissed through the phone. But Elena's hand was already moving toward the intercom button. Because maybe Maria was right. Maybe she was being naive and stupid and was about to make the worst decision of her life. Or maybe, just maybe, Thomas was right, and she was about to be surprised. She pressed the "come up to the house." "Elena, I have to call you back, Maria." She ended the call despite her friend's protests and watched as the gate swung open and the SUV glided up the driveway. It parked near the entrance. Elena's heart hammered as the driver's door opened, and a man emerged. He was tall, easily 6'2", with broad shoulders that filled out his dark suit perfectly. Black hair, styled back but with enough length to hint at curl. Strong jaw shadowed with stubble. And eyes, even from this distance, that were dark and intense and completely focused on her as he approached the front door. He moved with a confidence that came from never being told no, from knowing he commanded every room he entered. But there was also a careful quality to his approach, like he was aware of how intimidating he could be and was trying to minimize it. Elena opened the door before he could knock, refusing to let him think she was hiding or afraid, even though her hands were shaking. Up, close. Mateo Vega was even more overwhelming. There was a presence about him, a gravity that pulled attention like a black hole. His suit was impeccably tailored, probably cost more than she made in 6 months. But it was his eyes that caught her dark brown, almost black, with an intensity that made her feel like he could see straight through every wall she'd ever built. "Miss Torres." His voice matched the rest of him, deep, controlled, with the faintest accent that suggested Spanish as a first language. "Thank you for seeing me. I know this situation is unconventional. That's one word for it." Elena crossed her arms, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. "You gave me a mansion because I gave your father $20. That's not unconventional, Mr. Vega. That's insane." A slight smile curved his lips. "Fair assessment. May I come in? Or would you prefer to have this conversation on the doorstep?" Elena stepped aside, and he entered, his presence somehow making the brash and massive entryway feel smaller. He glanced around, but not like someone seeing it for the first time, like someone confirming details. "You bought this house for me," Elena said, watching him carefully. "Before last night, this wasn't a quick decision." His eyebrows rose, slightly impressed, she realized. "The purchase was finalized last night after my father called me, but you're right that I move quickly when necessary. I had my real estate team find properties that might suit you. This one seemed appropriate." "Appropriate." Elena laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Mr. Vega, I work at SaveMart and a diner. I eat ramen for most meals. I've never even been inside a house like this, much less lived in one. What part of this is appropriate?" "The part where you deserve to be safe and comfortable after years of struggle." He moved to the window, looking out at the view. "My father told me what you did. You gave him everything you had. Not some token amount, not loose. Change everything. That kind of kindness is rare. So you bought me a house. I provided you an option." He turned back to her. "You can refuse it, Elena." "May I call you Elena?" She nodded, throat tight. "You can refuse it," he continued. "Walk away right now, and I'll never contact you again. The house will be sold and the proceeds donated to charity. But I hope you won't refuse. I hope you'll accept this gift in the spirit it's intended as gratitude for reminding me that genuine goodness still exists. And there's really no catch? You don't want anything from me? I want you to be safe. That's all. Why do you care if I'm safe? You don't know me." Mateo was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying her face with an intensity that made her skin prickle. When he spoke, his voice was softer, more genuine than before. "When I was 19, my mother was killed in a drive-by shooting. Wrong place, wrong time. She was coming out of a grocery store." His jaw tightened. He was a genuinely good person, Elena. Kind to everyone, generous with what little we had back then, and the world took her anyway. Elena's breath caught. "I'm sorry. My point is that good people get crushed in this world. They work themselves to death trying to keep their heads above water, and society just doesn't care. You've been drowning for years, haven't you? Working multiple jobs, barely surviving, and nobody's thrown you a life preserver." He stepped closer, and Elena found she couldn't look away. "Last night, you chose kindness when it cost you everything. You had $20 and could have kept it, should have kept it, but you gave it away. That tells me who you are at your core. And people like you shouldn't be punished for their goodness. So this is charity." Elena's voice was bitter despite herself. You feel sorry for me. No. The word was firm, almost sharp. I don't feel sorry for you. I respect you. There's a difference. You've survived circumstances that would break most people, and you did it without losing your humanity. That's strength, Elena. That's worth recognizing. By giving me a mansion, by giving you choices, options, the ability to stop drowning and catch your breath for once. Mateo pulled out his phone and pulled up something, then showed her the screen. This is your landlord, Viktor Kozlov. 3 complaints of sexual harassment filed against him. 2 settled out of court. He's currently facing eviction proceedings himself for building code violations. And in 3 days, he was going to put you on the street. Elena stared at the information, her stomach churning. She'd always felt uncomfortable around Kozlov, but had told herself she was being paranoid. You're not going back there, Mateo said quietly. You're not spending one more night in that apartment with a man who looks at you like prey. You're not working yourself to death for pennies while scum like him profit off your struggle. You're going to live here, safely, and you're going to have the space to figure out what you actually want to do with your life. And if I refuse? His expression didn't change. Then I respect your choice. Like I said, the house will be sold and you'll never hear from me again. Elena walked to the massive windows, looking down at the city spread below her like a glittering carpet. Every light represented a dream, a struggle, a person fighting their own impossible battle. She thought about her studio apartment, the eviction notice, the 70-hour work weeks that barely kept her afloat. Thought about Kozlov's lingering looks, and the way her body never felt safe in her own home. Thought about the bone-deep exhaustion that had become her constant companion. Then she thought about Maria's warning. About the articles she'd read. About the fact that Mateo Vega was connected to things she didn't understand. Dangerous things. If I stay here, she said slowly, not turning around, will I be safe from you? Yes. How can I trust that? Because I'm going to give you something nobody else in my world has. Elena turned. What? Mateo pulled out a piece of paper and a pen from his jacket. He wrote something down, folded it, and handed it to her. That's the contact information for Detective Sarah Chen, LAPD. She's one of the few honest cops in this city, and she's been trying to build a case against me for 3 years. If I ever, and I mean ever, do anything that makes you feel unsafe or threatened or pressured, you call her. You tell her everything. And I promise you, she'll use it to destroy me. Elena unfolded the paper. A name, a direct phone number, and a badge number. You're giving me ammunition against you. I'm proving that I mean what I say. You're safe from me, Elena. Always. He stepped back toward the door. Take tonight. Stay here. Explore the house. Let it sink in. Tomorrow, if you decide to accept this gift, great. If not, I'll make arrangements for you to return to your apartment with enough money to cover your rent for the next 6 months while you find a better situation. And if I accept? Do I ever see you again? Something flickered across his face, disappointment maybe, or loneliness. Only if you want to. The house is yours regardless. But, he paused at the door. If you ever want to understand why I did this, or if you just want someone to talk to who gets what it's like to come from nothing, I'd welcome the conversation. He opened the door, then looked back one more time. You gave my father his dignity back last night, Elena. You saw him as a person worth helping, not an inconvenience or a threat. That's a gift you probably don't even realize you gave. This, he gestured at the house, is just me trying to return the favor. Then he was gone, walking back to his SUV with that same confident grace. Elena watched from the window as he drove away, the gates closing behind him with a soft electronic hum. She was alone in a mansion, and that was apparently hers, given to her by a man who was either the most generous person she'd ever met or the most dangerous, and she had until tomorrow to figure out which. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Elena spent the rest of the day exploring every inch of the mansion, her phone constantly buzzing with panic texts from Maria that she mostly ignored. She opened every closet, tested every faucet, sat in every room trying to absorb the reality of it. In the master bedroom closet, she found clothes, her size, jeans, comfortable shirts, a few dresses, nothing too fancy but all good quality. There was a note pinned to one of the hangers. I took the liberty of having some basics provided. If they're not your style, Feel free to donate them or throw them away. There's also a car in the garage with your name on the floor. Title: You'll need transportation if you're staying. Elena went to the garage. 3 bays, 2 empty, 1 containing a silver Honda CR-V. Not new, maybe 3 years old, but in perfect condition. The keys were hanging on a hook by the door, attached to a keychain that simply said Elena. She sat in the driver's seat, breathing in the new car smell, and cried. Because this was too much and not enough all at once. Too much generosity for one act of kindness, but not enough to make her forget that the man providing it was connected to things that scared her. By evening, Elena made her decision. She called the number on Mateo's card. He answered on the first ring. Elena, I'm staying. The words came out stronger than she felt. But I need you to understand something, Mr. Vega. Mateo, please. Mateo, I'm staying because I need this. Because I've been drowning and you threw me a life preserver and I'm not noble enough to refuse it. But that doesn't mean I'm comfortable with whatever you are, whatever you do. I understand. And if I find out you're using me for something, if there's some angle I'm not seeing, I will call Detective Chen so fast. You have every right to protect yourself. I'd expect nothing less. Elena took a breath. Okay, then, thank you. For the house. For the car. For seeing me when I felt invisible. You were never invisible, Elena. You just needed someone to look. After she hung up, Elena walked through her new house, her house, and tried to process the fact that her life had completely changed in 24 hours. She didn't know that across the city, Mateo Vega was making phone calls to ensure her safety. That he'd assigned a discreet security detail to watch her building. That he'd paid off every debt she had: student loans, credit cards, medical bills, parking tickets, all of it, wiped clean. She didn't know that he'd had her entire history investigated and had been appalled by what he'd found. The struggle, the loss, the years of barely surviving while the city ground her down. And she definitely didn't know that protecting her had already become more than just returning a favor. It had become personal. Because Mateo Vega, the most feared man in Los Angeles, had found something he hadn't expected in a tired SaveMart cashier who'd given his father $20. He'd found someone worth protecting. Someone worth keeping safe. Someone who reminded him that underneath all the violence and power and blood, he was still capable of caring about something good. And in his world, that made Elena Torres the most precious thing he'd ever encountered, which also made her the most vulnerable. Elena had been living in the mansion for 2 weeks when everything went wrong. The first week had been surreal, waking up in a bedroom larger than her old apartment, drinking coffee on a terrace overlooking Los Angeles, slowly accepting that this wasn't a dream she'd wake up from. She'd quit her job at SaveMart, though she'd kept her diner shifts because sitting idle in a mansion made her feel like an imposter. Maria had visited once, walking through the house with wide eyes and repeated whispers of, "This is insane." She'd left with a warning. "Just be careful, Elena. Please." Elena had been careful. She hadn't called Mateo, though she thought about him constantly, hadn't reached out, hadn't asked for anything more. She was living in his gift, but keeping her distance from the man himself. That changed on a Tuesday night. Elena was driving home from her diner shift in the Honda, exhausted from an 8-hour rush, when she noticed the black sedan following her. It had been behind her for the last 3 turns, maintaining a consistent distance. Her heart rate spiked. She turned randomly, testing. The sedan followed. Elena grabbed her phone, her hands shaking. She should call 911, should call Detective Chen. Instead, she found herself dialing the number she'd saved but never used. Mateo answered. Immediately. "Elena? What's wrong?" "Someone's following me. A black sedan. License plate." She squinted in the rearview mirror, reading off the numbers. "Where are you?" His voice had changed sharp, commanding, dangerous. "About 2 miles from the house. Heading north on. Don't go home. Drive to the address I'm texting you right now. It's a restaurant in West Hollywood. Public, safe. I'll meet you there in 10 minutes. Mateo, I'm scared. I know. But you're going to be fine. I promise you. Just get to that restaurant and stay in public areas. I'm already in my car." The text came through. Elena changed direction, her eyes constantly flicking to the rearview mirror. The sedan stayed with her, not even trying to be subtle anymore. She pulled up to the restaurant, an upscale Italian place with valet parking and lots of people. The sedan drove past as she handed her keys to the valet, but she saw it circle the block. Elena stood on the sidewalk, her whole body trembling. Within 5 minutes, a familiar black SUV pulled up, and Mateo emerged like a force of nature. He was dressed casually, dark jeans and a fitted black shirt, but there was nothing casual about the intensity radiating from him. His eyes scanned the street, cataloging everything, before landing on her. In 3 long strides he was there, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "Are you hurt?" "No, I don't understand. Why would someone follow me?" Mateo's jaw clenched. "Let's go inside. We need to talk." He kept a protective hand on her back as they entered the restaurant. The hostess took one look at Mateo and immediately led them to a private booth in the back, far from windows. Elena noticed how the staff moved around him, respectful, almost fearful. Once they were seated, Mateo pulled out his phone and made a quick call in Spanish. Elena caught enough words to understand. License plate, location, find them now. "I'm sorry," he said after hanging up. "This is my fault." "What's your fault? What's happening?" Mateo leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. "When you moved into the house, certain people noticed. People who have been watching me, wondering why I'd give away a multi-million-dollar property to a complete stranger." Elena's stomach dropped. "Your enemies." "My competitors," he corrected carefully. "In my line of work, generosity is seen as weakness, and weakness is exploited. By giving you that house, by showing that I care about your safety, I painted a target on your back." "Oh my God." Elena's hands started shaking. "I need to leave. I need to give back the house and disappear before—" "No." His hand covered hers on the table, warm and steady. "That won't help now. They already know about you. Running would just make you more vulnerable. The safest place for you is where I can protect you." "Protect me from what?" Mateo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made her chest tighten. "Do you remember, as what I told you about my mother, how she was killed?" Elena nodded. "It wasn't random. It was the Moretti family sending a message to my father. They wanted territory he controlled, and when he wouldn't negotiate, they took what he loved most." His grip on her hand tightened slightly. "I was 19. I watched my father break. Watched him become something harder, colder. And I swore I'd never let anyone use people I care about as leverage against me. But you don't care about me. You barely know me." Something flickered in his eyes, pain maybe, or longing. "I know enough. I know you work yourself to exhaustion but still have energy to be kind. I know you're smart and resilient, and too stubborn to accept help even when you're drowning. I know my father hasn't stopped talking about you since that night, and he's a man who rarely talks about anything." Mateo leaned back, his expression hardening. "And I know that if anyone hurts you because of me, I'll burn their entire organization to the ground." The intensity in his voice made Elena's breath catch. This wasn't hyperbole. This was a promise. "The people following you tonight," Mateo continued, "they were probably just watching, testing my response, but it's going to escalate. The Castellano family has been looking for ways to undermine me since I took over the Western Territory. You're the first vulnerability I've shown in years. Then I'll leave Los Angeles. I'll move somewhere they can't find me." "Elena, they found you in 2 weeks. You think they won't find you again? The only way to keep you safe is to make it abundantly clear that touching you means war." He pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. "Do you recognize this man?" Elena studied the image, a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and cold blue eyes. "No. Should I?" "Vincent Castellano. He runs the rival family I mentioned. His son Marco was arrested last month on racketeering charges. The evidence was provided anonymously, and Castellano thinks I was behind it." "Were you?" A slight smile. "Yes. Marco was trafficking girls from Eastern Europe. 14-year-olds. Elena? That crosses a line even in my world. So I made sure the FBI got everything they needed to put him away." Elena stared at him, trying to reconcile the man who'd given her a mansion with the man who orchestrated federal arrests. "You're not what I expected. Neither are you." He reached across the table and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture surprisingly gentle. "I expected someone who'd take the house and run. Instead, you're still working at a diner despite having a trust fund that could support you for life. You're not who I expected either." "What trust fund?" Mateo's expression flickered, caught. "The property maintenance account I mentioned. It's actually more comprehensive than that. Enough to cover living expenses, education if you want to go back to school, medical care, whatever you need. How much more? Comprehensive? $2 million. Elena's world tilted. I'm sorry, what? It's protected in a trust with your name on it. You can't refuse it because it's already legally yours. But you don't have to touch it if you don't want to. I just wanted you to have options. You gave me $2 million. Elena's voice was rising. Other diners were starting to look. On top of the mansion. On top of the car. Are you insane? Probably. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. But you gave my father everything you had. I'm just trying to match your generosity. Elena wanted to scream, to laugh, to cry. Instead, she just sat there, staring at this impossible man who'd turned her life into something unrecognizable. I don't know if I should thank you or slap you, she finally said. Both seem reasonable. His expression sobered. But right now, we need to focus on keeping you alive, which means you need to trust me. Can you do that? Elena thought about the detective's phone number, still saved in her contacts, about Maria's warnings, about every logical reason to run from this man and his world. Then she thought about the way he'd raced across the city when she called. The genuine concern in his eyes, the fact that he could have lied about the trust fund but chose honesty instead. I can try, she said quietly. That's all I ask. Mateo stood and offered his hand. Come on, you're not going back to the house tonight. I have a secure location where you'll stay until I figure out exactly what Castellano is planning. A secure location? You mean like a safe house? I mean my penthouse. It's the most protected building in Los Angeles. Castellano would need an army to get to you there. Elena's heart hammered. I can't stay at your place. That's the safest option. You'll have your own room, complete privacy, and a security team that would die before letting anyone hurt you. He squeezed her hand gently. I know this is overwhelming. I know you didn't sign up for any of this. But please, Elena, let me keep you safe. She looked into his dark eyes and saw something that terrified her more than the danger. Genuine care. Mateo Vega, the most feared man in Los Angeles, actually cared about what happened to her. Okay, she whispered. But just until this blows over. The smile that crossed his face was equal parts relief and something warmer. Just until it blows over. He had no idea how wrong that assumption would be. Mateo's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a high-rise in downtown Los Angeles. The elevator required both a key card and a fingerprint scan to access. When the doors opened directly into his living space, Elena stepped into a world that made her mansion look modest. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a 360-degree view of the city. The decor was masculine and sophisticated, dark leather, rich woods, abstract art that was probably worth more than most houses. But there were also unexpected touches. Family photos on a bookshelf, a guitar in the corner, a well-worn paperback on the coffee table. The guest suite is this way. Mateo led her down a hallway, past what looked like a home office and a gym. He opened a door to reveal a bedroom that could have been in a luxury hotel. Massive bed, private bathroom, even a small sitting area. There are clothes in the closet, all new, all your size. Toiletries in the bathroom. If you need anything else, just let me know. He paused at the door. I'm right across the hall if you get scared or just can't sleep. Don't hesitate to knock. Mateo? Elena said as he started to leave. Thank you. For coming when I called. For all of this. His smile was soft, genuine. You saved my father's life that night, Elena. Maybe not literally, but you gave him something he hadn't felt in years, seen, valued. Human. I can never repay that debt, but I'm going to try. After he left, Elena explored the suite, her mind reeling. She found the clothes he'd mentioned: jeans, comfortable shirts, even pajamas, all in her exact size. It should have been creepy, this level of preparation. Instead, it felt like being cared for in a way she hadn't experienced since her parents died. She showered in the massive bathroom, put on the soft cotton pajamas, and tried to sleep. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw the black sedan following her. Imagined what might have happened if Mateo hadn't answered her call. Around 2 a.m. Elena gave up on sleep and padded out to the living room. The city lights created a soft glow, and she could see Mateo's silhouette at the window, phone to his ear, speaking in rapid Spanish. He turned when he heard her, immediately ending the call. Can't sleep? Too much adrenaline. Elena moved to the window beside him. Were you up all night? I'm making arrangements. Castellano made a move tonight. Now I need to respond in a way that makes it clear you're off limits. What kind of response? Mateo was quiet, and Elena realized he was debating how much to tell her. Finally, he said, the men who followed you worked for a low-level crew that does dirty work for the Castellanos. By morning, that crew will no longer be operational. You're going to kill them. It wasn't a question. No. I'm going to buy out their contracts, offer them double what Castellano was paying, and make it clear that working against me is bad for their health. He glanced at her. I'm trying to be the kind of man who doesn't default to violence. It's harder than it looks. Elena studied his profile, the strong jaw, the scar she hadn't noticed before along his cheekbone, the tension in his shoulders. You're not what the articles say you are. I'm exactly what the articles say I am. I've done terrible things, Elena. Things that would make you look at me differently. Like what? Like ordering the execution of a man who was trafficking children. Like burning down a warehouse full of counterfeit pharmaceuticals that were killing people. Like destroying the political career of a councilman who was taking bribes to ignore gang violence in poor neighborhoods. His voice was flat, emotionless. I'm not a good man. I just have my own code. Your code includes protecting strangers who give your father $20. My code includes protecting people who deserve it. You're at the top of that list now. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city sleep below them. Elena found herself studying Mateo when he wasn't looking, the way his jaw clenched when he was thinking, the protective way he positioned himself between her and the windows, the exhaustion in his eyes that suggested he rarely slept. Can I ask you something? Elena said quietly. Anything. Why haven't you ever gotten married? Had a family? You're what, 35? 36. A bitter smile. And the answer is simple. In my world, family is leverage. A wife, children, they become targets. I watched what losing my mother did to my father. I swore I'd never put anyone through that. That sounds lonely. It is. He turned to face her fully, and the vulnerability in his expression stole her breath. But then a woman gave my father $20 she couldn't afford to lose, and I started wondering if maybe I'd been wrong, if maybe some people are worth the risk. Elena's heart pounded. Mateo. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor changed, hardened, sharpened. I need to take this. Go back to bed, Elena. Try to sleep. What's wrong? Nothing I can't handle. But his tone said otherwise. Elena watched him walk to his office, phone already to his ear. Through the partially open door, she heard his voice rise, angry, commanding, dangerous. Something had gone very wrong. Elena woke to raised voices. She checked her phone, 6:47 a.m. She'd only been asleep for a few hours. Pulling on a robe she found in the closet, she crept toward the sound. Mateo stood in his living room with 3 other men, all wearing suits, all looking like they could kill someone with their bare hands. The conversation was in Spanish, fast and heated, but Elena caught enough words to understand. Betrayal, warehouse, ambush. We need to respond now, boss, one of the men said, switching to English. Castellano hit 3 of our operations overnight. The harbor warehouse, the downtown office, even the fucking construction site in Pasadena. This is war. It's a provocation, Mateo corrected, his voice deadly calm. He wants me to retaliate, to give him an excuse to escalate. We're not playing his game. So we just take it? Let him think we're weak? No. We respond strategically. Hit him where it hurts his money. I want every legitimate business he owns investigated. Health code violations, building permits, tax audits. We crush him legally. That'll take weeks. In the meantime, we fortify our positions and protect our people. Mateo's eyes flicked to where Elena stood in the doorway. The other men followed his gaze, and the room went silent. Everyone out, Mateo said quietly. We'll continue this later. The men filed past Elena with curious glances. Once they were alone, Mateo ran a hand through his hair, suddenly looking exhausted. How much did you hear? Enough to know last night wasn't just about following me. This is bigger. Castellano is making a play for my territory. You were just the trigger. He moved to the window, his back to her. I'm sorry, Elena. I brought you into this. If I'd just left you alone, I'd be getting evicted today, and probably accepting my landlord's alternative payment arrangements. Elena moved to stand beside him. You saved me, Mateo. Whatever's happening now isn't your fault. It is, though. In my world, caring about someone is a liability. I should have known better. Do you regret it, helping me? He turned to face her, and the intensity in his dark eyes made her breath catch. Not for a second. But I regret that you're in danger because of me. Then let me help. How could you possibly? I'm good with numbers. I heard you mention tax audits and investigations. I worked as a bookkeeper before the diner, did freelance accounting. Let me look at Castellano's businesses. Let me find the holes. Mateo stared at her. You want to help me take down a rival crime family. I want to help end whatever's putting me in danger. And if that means finding proof that Castellano is cooking his books, then yes. Elena crossed her arms. I'm not helpless, Mateo. Stop treating me like I am. A slow smile spread across his face, proud, appreciative, genuinely impressed. You're full of surprises, aren't you? You have no idea. For the next 3 days, Elena worked from Mateo's penthouse, surrounded by financial records his team had compiled on the Castellano organization. She pored over tax returns, business filings, property records, looking for discrepancies, and she found them. Lots of them. Look at this, she said to Mateo on the third evening, spreading documents across his dining table. Castellano owns a restaurant in Venice Beach. According to his tax returns, it barely breaks even. But look at the liquor orders. They're purchasing enough alcohol to serve 3 times their reported revenue. Either they're lying about income or running something through the back. Mateo leaned over her shoulder, studying the documents. Money laundering. Classic setup. What else? His construction company reports 15 employees. But payroll records show payments to over 40 people. Ghost workers. Probably a way to move cash without raising flags. And the property in Riverside? Elena pulled up another file. Purchased for $800,000 5 years ago. Officially used as a warehouse. But property tax assessments show structural improvements worth at least $2 million that were never permitted or reported. Plus, utility usage suggests it's operating 24/7. But there's no business license on file. Drug processing. Mateo's voice was grim. I've suspected that location for months but couldn't prove it. Well, now you can. Between the tax fraud, the unlicensed operations, and the money laundering, you've got enough to trigger federal investigations into at least 6 of his businesses. Elena sat back, satisfied. Hit him with audits simultaneously. Even if he's clean, which he's not, the scrutiny will cost him millions in legal fees and lost revenue. Mateo looked at her with something like wonder. You're brilliant. You know that? I'm motivated. There's a difference. But Elena felt warmth bloom in her chest at the praise. I'm sending this to my legal team tonight. Within a week, Castellano is going to be drowning in federal investigators. Mateo's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. I need to handle something. Order whatever you want for dinner, use the house account. I'll be back in a few hours. Is everything okay? Just business. I'll explain later. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door, then paused. Elena, lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or my head of security, Vincent. His photo is on the fridge. You're worrying me. Just being cautious. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'll be back soon. I promise. But as the door closed behind him, Elena felt a chill of premonition. Something was wrong. She could feel it. 2 hours later, her instincts proved correct. Elena was reviewing more of Castellano's records when someone knocked on the penthouse door. She checked the peephole, a man in a building maintenance uniform. Yes? She called through the door. Ma'am, we've got a water leak in the unit below. I need to check your pipes to make sure the damage isn't coming from here. Elena hesitated. Mateo had said not to open the door. But a water leak was an emergency, and the man looked legitimate. She was reaching for the deadbolt when her phone rang. Mateo's name flashed on the screen. Don't open that door, he said immediately, his voice sharp. Elena, do not open the door. There's a maintenance worker. There is no maintenance worker. It's a fake. Get to my office right now and lock yourself in. There's a panic button under the desk. Press it. Elena's blood ran cold. Mateo, what's happening? Castellano knows you're helping me. He's sending people to grab you. I'm 5 minutes away, but you need to hide now. The knocking became pounding. Miss Torres, I really need you to open this door. Elena ran to Mateo's office, her heart hammering. She found the panic button under the desk and pressed it. Immediately, steel shutters began descending over the windows, and a loud alarm started blaring. I pressed it, she told Mateo, her voice shaking. What do I do now? There's a gun in the bottom desk drawer. Do you know how to use one? No. Mateo, I've never... A massive crash echoed from the living room. They were breaking down the door. Listen to me carefully. Mateo's voice was calm, controlled, keeping her grounded. The gun has a safety on the side. Push it forward until you see a red dot. That means it's ready to fire. If anyone comes through that office door who isn't me, you point it at their chest and pull the trigger. Can you do that? I don't know. Elena, you can do this. I'm 3 minutes away. Just hold on. She pulled out the gun with trembling hands, found the safety, pushed it forward. The red dot appeared. The weapon felt heavy, foreign, terrifying. Footsteps in the hallway, male voices speaking in Italian. Getting closer. They're coming, Elena whispered. I'm pulling up now. Hold on, baby. Just hold on. The office door handle turned. Elena raised the gun, her whole body shaking. The door opened. A man she didn't recognize stepped through, big, scarred, holding his own weapon. Elena pulled the trigger. The recoil knocked her backward. The man screamed and went down, clutching his shoulder. Blood spread across his shirt. I got him. Elena sobbed into the phone. Mateo, I shot him. You did perfect. Stay there. I'm coming. More footsteps. Another man appeared in the doorway. Elena fired again. Missed. The man ducked back. Then she heard the most beautiful sound in the world. Mateo's voice, roaring in fury, and the unmistakable crack of gunshots from the living room. The sounds of a brutal fight, fists on flesh, bodies hitting walls, more gunshots, then silence. Elena? Mateo's voice, strained. It's me. I'm coming in. He appeared in the doorway, and Elena nearly sobbed with relief. His shirt was torn, blood on his knuckles, a cut above his eyebrow. But he was alive. He was here. Elena dropped the gun and threw herself into his arms. He caught her, holding her tight as she shook. You're okay, he murmured into her hair. You're safe. I've got you. I shot someone. Mateo. I shot. You defended yourself. You did exactly what you needed to do. He pulled back to look at her face, his hands gentle as they cupped her cheeks. You were so brave. I'm so proud of you. How many were there? 4. All Castellano's men. All dead now except the one you shot. He'll survive to tell his boss what happened when you come after a Vega. Elena looked past him into the living room. Bodies. Blood. The reality of Mateo's world laid bare. This is what your life is like, she whispered. Violence and death and protecting people I care about. Yes. His dark eyes searched hers. I understand if this is too much. If you want to walk away, I'll arrange protection for you somewhere far from here. Somewhere safe. Elena thought about her old life. The studio apartment, the 70-hour work weeks, the constant fear of drowning. That life had been slowly killing her too, just in a different way. Then she thought about the past few weeks, waking up in a mansion, having choices for the first time in years, working alongside Mateo, using her skills to actually make a difference, feeling protected, valued, seen, and she thought about the man holding her now. Dangerous, yes. Complicated, absolutely. But also generous, protective, willing to burn the world down to keep her safe. I'm not going anywhere, Elena said firmly. But this ends, Mateo. We end Castellano's threat once and for all. No more hiding, no more defense. We take the fight to him. Mateo's smile was slow, dangerous, and completely genuine. You're sure? I'm sure. You gave me my life back. Now let me help you protect yours. He kissed her, then fierce and claiming, tasting of violence and promise. When they broke apart, Elena saw something new in his eyes. Partnership. Castellano wanted a war. Mateo said quietly. He's about to learn what happens when you threaten a Vega. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind. Mateo mobilized his entire organization, while Elena's financial evidence triggered simultaneous federal raids on 6 Castellano properties. The IRS, FBI, and DEA descended like locusts, and by the second day, Vincent Castellano was in federal custody, facing enough charges to put him away for life. His organization collapsed like a house of cards. Without leadership, his crews either scattered or switched allegiance to Mateo, who'd made it clear he was offering amnesty to anyone who hadn't directly threatened Elena. "It's over," Mateo said on the third evening, finding Elena on his penthouse terrace. "Castellano won't see freedom for 20 years. His territory is being absorbed by families that have agreed to a truce. And every organization in California now knows that you're under my protection." Elena looked out at the city lights. "So I'm safe now. You're safe now. And we're—" She trailed off, not sure how to finish. Mateo moved behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder. "We're whatever you want us to be. If you want to go back to your mansion, live your life, and never see me again, I'll respect that. The house is yours. The trust fund is yours. All of it. No strings. And if I don't want that, then I'm going to spend every day proving that I'm worth the risk. That loving me isn't a death sentence. That we can build something real despite where we come from." Elena turned in his arms, looking up at his face. "Loving you? I fell in love with you the night you gave my father $20, Mateo admitted. Watched the security footage from the SaveMart, saw you pay for his Apple with your own money, and knew I'd found something rare. Someone genuinely good in a world that punishes goodness. I'm not that good. I shot a man 3 days ago. You defended yourself. There's a difference." His hands cupped her face with infinite gentleness. "You're smart, resilient, brave, and kind. You're everything I didn't know I needed. And if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life keeping you safe and happy. That's a big promise. I'm a man who keeps his promises." Elena thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. $20 given to a stranger, a mansion that appeared like magic, a man who'd turned her world upside down and given her choices she'd never dreamed possible. "I love you too," she said quietly. "Which is probably insane given that we've known each other less than a month. But I do. You make me feel protected and valued and like I actually matter. You do matter. More than anything." He kissed her again, and this time it wasn't fierce or claiming. It was gentle, reverent, full of promises that had nothing to do with money or houses and everything to do with hearts. 6 months later, Elena stood in the living room of her Mulholland Drive mansion, but it didn't feel like hers anymore. It felt like theirs. Mateo had moved in 3 months ago, though he'd kept his penthouse for business meetings. They'd turned one of the bedrooms into an office where Elena ran the legitimate side of his operations. She'd discovered she had a talent for business strategy and had helped him transition several enterprises into completely legal ventures. Rafael visited every Sunday for dinner, and Elena had learned that the Homeless Act had been his way of testing potential business partners and employees for years. She was the only one who'd ever passed so spectacularly. "You ready?" Mateo called from the bedroom. "Almost. Tonight was special." Mateo had asked her to dress up but wouldn't say why. Elena smoothed down the emerald green dress he'd bought her silk, elegant, making her feel like someone who belonged in this life. She found him waiting in the living room, wearing a tailored suit that made him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine. But it was his expression that made her breath catch nervous, hopeful, vulnerable in a way she rarely saw. "You look beautiful," he said softly. "You look terrified. What's going on?" Mateo took her hands, and Elena realized they were shaking slightly. This man, who faced down rival crime families without flinching, was nervous about whatever came next. "6 months ago, you gave my father $20 and changed my life forever. You reminded me that goodness exists, that people can be genuinely kind without expecting anything in return. You made me want to be better." "Mateo, let me finish." He smiled, his thumbs brushing across her knuckles. "These past 6 months with you have been the best of my life. You're brilliant and brave, and you challenge me every day to be the man you deserve. You've helped me build something legitimate, something I can actually be proud of. And you've given me something I never thought I could have a future worth looking forward to." He dropped to one knee, and Elena's heart stopped. "I know my world is complicated. I know I come with baggage and danger and a past I can't erase. But I promise you that every day for the rest of my life, I will protect you, cherish you, and love you with everything I have." He pulled out a ring box and opened it to reveal a stunning diamond that caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. "Elena Torres, will you marry me?" Elena looked at the man kneeling before her, the reformed crime boss who'd given her everything, the dangerous protector who'd become her safe place. The complicated, brilliant, generous man who'd seen her when she was invisible and decided she was worth the world. "Yes," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I'll marry you." Mateo slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss that tasted like joy and promise and future. When they broke apart, he was grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "I was so nervous you'd say no." "Are you kidding? You gave me a mansion for $20. "I was never saying no." He laughed, the sound free and happy. "I love you, Elena." "I love you too." Outside, the city glittered in the darkness, the same city that had nearly broken her, that had tested her and pushed her to the edge. But she'd survived. More than survived, she'd found love in the most unexpected place with the most unexpected person. And it had all started with one simple act of kindness. Epilogue. 1 year later, the wedding was small, just close family and friends. Rafael walked Elena down the aisle with tears in his eyes, whispering that his son had finally found what he deserved. Maria was her maid of honor, still slightly intimidated by Mateo, but had grudgingly admitted he made Elena happy. They honeymooned in Italy, where Mateo showed her the village his grandparents came from, and Elena fell in love with him all over again, watching him speak easy Italian with locals. Back in Los Angeles, Elena opened a nonprofit using her trust fund, a financial literacy and job training center in her old neighborhood. She hired people like she'd once been, struggling, drowning, one emergency away from disaster. She taught them bookkeeping, helped them find legitimate work, gave them the choices she'd never had. Mateo's transformation continued. His legitimate businesses flourished, and he'd almost completely extricated himself from the underworld. There were still rumors, still whispers, but increasingly he was known as a businessman and philanthropist rather than a crime boss. On their first anniversary, Elena found him on the terrace of their mansion, their home now, truly shared. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "How different my life would be if you'd walked past my father that night. If you'd kept your $20 and kept walking. But I didn't. But you didn't." He turned in her arms, his hands settling on her waist. "You chose kindness. And in return, you got me danger, complications, and all. Best $20 I ever spent." Mateo laughed and pulled her close. "I got the better deal. I got you." As they stood there watching the sun set over Los Angeles, Elena reflected on the impossible journey that had brought them together. A simple act of generosity to a stranger, a mansion that appeared like a fairy tale, danger and violence and fear that had tested them both. But through it all, they'd found something neither had expected. A love built on genuine respect, shared values, and the understanding that kindness, real kindness, was the rarest and most valuable currency in the world. Elena Torres had given away her last $20 to help someone in need. In return, she'd received everything she'd never dared to dream of: safety, security, purpose, and a love that would last a lifetime. Sometimes, the universe rewarded goodness. Sometimes, choosing compassion over self-preservation led to miracles. And sometimes, just sometimes, giving everything you had to someone who seemed to have nothing resulted in getting back more than you ever imagined possible. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So, if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel.